Hi everyone, my name is Felicia O'Garrell, and today I'll be presenting my final project, Adaptive Question Generation System. The goal behind this project was to move beyond static question generation to a system that adapts to the user's performance in real time for educational platforms. I built an adaptive quiz system that generates questions from reading passages using transformer models and comparing local TensorFlow versus commercial APIs. For this project, I used the Squad V 2.0 dataset, which is a part of the Squad dataset. It's just a new version. And if you're not familiar with the Squad dataset, it's pretty much Stanford question answering dataset. Now, as far as the data set in general, it has over 130 examples, but for this project, I only actually used about 88,000 examples, and for validation, I used about 12,000. As far as one of the challenges that I face, there were about 50% unanswerable questions, which in turn I couldn't actually, which prevented me from generating new questions. So I had to come up with a solution, the natural filtering via NER. As far as the system architecture, there's six core components. There's the dataset visualizer, which is a statistical analysis with NER, an answer extractor using Spacey NER with entity scoring 3 points and noun phrases 2 points, an adaptive learning engine, which is a two-streak promotion or demotion across three difficulty levels, an interactive quiz which has a three-level progressive hint system, a QA quality validator, which has four validation criteria, and a model benchmark, which consists of composite scoring with four panel visualizations. Next is the question generation models. So for this project, I actually use five models, two paradigms. So as far as the two different paradigms, there's the local TensorFlow models, and then there's the commercial API models. As far as the local TensorFlow models, I use the T5 small question generator and the Salesforce mix question generator. As far as my commercial APIs that I actually use via Open Router, I use Mistral 7B, DeepSeek Chat, and then Devstral 2, which actually turned out to be the most performant model. As far as the adaptive learning engine that was built, pretty much for dynamic difficulty adjustment. So based off of the different questions, there were three different levels: easy, medium, and hard. A- And as far as those different questions, you based off of whether you answered two correct answers or you had two incorrect answers, the difficulty would range or change. So if you had two correct answers, it would increase difficulty. As far as the two incorrect answers, it would decrease difficulty. As far as the three-level hinting system, it actually contained word count plus first letter, entity type plus answer length, and contextual sentence containing answer. Then there was the question validation. So, one of the biggest things with generating these questions, I had to make sure that they were accurate. At one point, I was actually using some text from Shakespeare, and I would get questions like, thou art, be thou, and which weren't really questions. So I had to actually set forth like a criteria based off of what would be a question or not, and if it was properly generated. So that four criteria was answering context, using exact substring match, minimum length, which at least 4 words, proper format, it would end with a question mark, and then no answer leakage, which answer not in the question text at all. As far as the answer verification, it's pretty much a multi-strategy matching with three different methods. They include the exact match, the fuzzy match, and the substring match. And as far as the system capability, the interactive quiz features, as I mentioned, you have the adaptive difficulty, the progressive hints, you have multi-model support where you could switch between 5 different models, real-time stats based off of the session accuracy and difficulty tracking, custom context, so you can use single or multi passages, and the fuzzy matching. So going through the process, I myself went through, tested several times, well, many, many, many times. And then from there, I was able to actually run and create like different benchmark analysis just to see what models were the most performant. And hands down, DevStream was the most performant. It had a success rate of 100%, which actually all the models had a success rate. However, when you get to the average generation time, you can see that DevStream actually generated questions in 1.4 seconds. And it also, and then DeepSeek at 1.8, Mistral at 1.53. The local models actually took a lot more time, almost double, triple the time that some of the other models took. So the mix QG actually took 12 seconds to generate questions. And then the T5 small actually took about six, almost 7 seconds to generate questions. Now, during this process, I ran into a number of different challenges and had to come up with different solutions very quickly. One of the biggest challenges that I ran into was TensorFlow and PyTorch compatibility conflicts, which I searched and searched and worked with some of the different LLMs, and I found out that if I added certain imports, that it would prevent those errors, and I would be able to actually move forward. So you'll see that throughout the code base that I have certain imports that you could actually add to prevent those compatibility issues. Another thing that I ran into was the memory constraints with Colab. Uh, I was actually using, initially I started off using some of the bigger models, like the standard T5 model, and literally lost all my credits in Colab in like a day or two. So I had to pivot and really think about the best way to utilize and get the best way that I could actually get results. And that was more or less like downsizing and just changing to some of the smaller models, which is why I use a T5 small in the mix QG. Another issue that I actually ran into with the APIs, you get multi-line response artifacts, which causes a lot of issues as far as like processing and generating the questions. So I had to come up with a multi-strategy response cleaning process to handle that. And lastly, another big challenge that I had was I was actually getting validation rates anywhere from 0 to 50%. So I had to figure that out why, and I had to enhance questions post processing. And that was pretty much about it. Working on this project, it was an amazing learning experience, and I really look forward to iterating more. I'll be adding the video presentation pretty soon, so you can check that out. But right now, I'm actually going to give you just a quick demo of the notebook. So here's the notebook about there right here. So you could see that um, there's details about just the adaptive question generation system, the problem statement itself, the imports that are required, as far as information about the data set and loading it. Then from there, you have the data set visualization class that you could actually go and you could see the usage. If you want to analyze the full data set, you could do that. If you want to analyze a sample, you can do that. To be honest, it's pretty, I feel like it ran pretty quickly for me. So if you want to just run the whole full data set, I would recommend doing that. But if you want to try out the sample size, you could do that as well. So let me just show you the results from running that. So if you run that, if you instantiate the class, the visualizer class, and you pass in the data set itself, and you use the method show all visualizations, you'll get some really cool visualizations showing like the distribution of the contact length, the distribution of the questions length, the distribution of the answer lengths, distribution of the answer types, the different entity distributions, which is pretty interesting as I went along, as well as the entity phrase length distribution as well. And those are the different visualizations that give you more insight into just like the squad data set or the squad data set in general. From there, I have step four, which actually includes the core components. So all of the different components. So if you want to get a deeper look and to see what's going on as far as the code for any of these components, they're actually in section four. Section five is all about the question generation models. So it's more or less like you have the code that just lists out the different models. So the T5 small, the mixed QG, Mistral, DeepSeek, DevStral, all of the logic is there. For the commercial models, I am actually using Open Router, so it will require you to add an API key. If you're using it, to be honest, best practice is to have like a .env file or some way to actually just like some a .env file to handle that. But I didn't actually include this. This was a school project, quick demo. So don't forget, once you're done, just remove your API key in general. And we can move down, going past the question and answer classes. The question generator class is more or less to the interactive quiz. So for the interactive quiz, it's pretty easy to start a quiz. You want to do like a quick start, you could just start quiz TF, pass in the different model you want to use and the number of questions, and it'll literally start the quiz. You want to add your own context, you can add your own context. You pass that in where the custom context is, the number of questions in the model. If you want to add multiple contexts, you could do that as well. And just to give you some idea of what the questions look like. So here's a few of the different quizzes that I actually went through, and I can show you exactly what I have. So this was just running with the T5 small model. I have the number of questions, five. So pretty much your adaptive quiz session, give it a little bit to start. And then it'll start, you'll see that it's generating different questions. It starts off with a medium question. This is something about Madonna, her Justify My Love album. You see the question, how many copies did it sell? From there, if you could provide an answer in the input. If you need a hint, just type in hint. You can type in hint up to three times and it'll give you different hints. I actually got this wrong, and this is something that I have to work on as far as the model. I answered 30 million copies worldwide, and the correct answer was over 30 million. So it didn't recognize that. So I have to go and do some fine tuning with the model, which will actually be in the next iteration. As far as the next question, as you can see, I was able to actually get that right. What type of constitution often vest this power in the cabinet, older constitutions? And you go from there. And if you get two questions in a row correct, then you'll see the difficulty level increases. So the difficulty level increases or it'll decrease. It didn't actually increase for me. It actually decreased. So toward the end, it actually increased, as you can see. So difficulty increased. And then from there, you actually get your quick stats. And as far as the questions itself, you have different options. If you want to put it in model comparison mode, you can put it in model comparison mode and literally go through and answer the different questions for the different models. And you can quit the quiz at any time if you want as well. So That's the quiz itself. Let me bring you down to the final part, which is the model benchmarking system. As you can see, you have the quick benchmark where you could pass in the data set and then the models and then the number of samples you want to actually run through, have it iterate through. And then you also have the custom benchmark. For me, I actually started off, I ran a benchmark for all of the different models. And as you can see, it'll say completed 5 to 20 samples, completed 10 to completed 15, 20 out of 20. And then it'll give you the generation time, the length of the words, and the number of valid questions that it answered, which is really good. After the benchmark is complete, you'll get some nice, pretty little charts that'll show you the success rate, average generation time, average question length, and the validation pass rate. Also, you'll get a benchmark summary table as well as composite rankings, which shows us right here, okay, DevStral is number one, DeepSeek is number two, Mistral is number three, T5 small is number four. Mixed QG came in number five. And if you want to export the results to CVS, you have that option to do so right there. And that's pretty much it as far as the benchmarking. There's a few more other things that the notebook includes, like if you have to go through any debugging, there's different steps down at the bottom that kind of outline like some of the debugging and certain things that I encountered. There's also a end-to-end demo that you can go through a quick pipeline if you want to actually just start. And that's pretty much about it. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Have a great day.